Él es uno de los más grandes de la historia. Siempre lo admiré, siempre me gustó. Lo seguí mucho en el Madrid, lo sufrí mucho también porque yo era del Barcelona.
Zidane was the key for me to change my idea of football.
Normal what he was doing. It was more than elegant.
It's the biggest surprise I've ever had on a football pitch.
When Zizou was on tune, there's nothing you could do. Unstoppable.
People literally used to turn up the Bernabeu to watch him just control the ball.
Met a lot of football, all the best, all the greats, I've met them. Yeah, the ones that are still here. He's got a different aura, isn't it?
Play with him. At the end, didn't happen. When I will leave from Barcelona, it was my dream play with Juventus, but didn't happen to play with him. I didn't speak much.
A World Cup winner, a Champions League winner, a Ballon d'Or winner, a football artist, and perhaps the most respected footballer to have ever lived. When footballers speak about greatness, his name always finds its way into the conversation. Not because he scored the most goals, not because he won the most trophies, but because of something much harder to explain. Elegance, control, authority. Watching Zidane never felt like watching someone play football. It felt like watching someone conduct an orchestra. Every touch had purpose. Every pass carried weight. Every movement looked effortless. And that is exactly why legends couldn't stop talking about him. Today, we're listening to them. Football has seen players who were quick, players who were powerful, players who were ruthless. Then there was Zidane. He wasn't the fastest. He rarely sprinted past entire teams. He wasn't obsessed with statistics. Yet somehow, he controlled entire football matches. He could slow the game down whenever he wanted. Then, with one touch, he could completely change its direction. That was his gift. He never forced football. Football came to him.
What I think is Zidane is like he has been touched by the angels in his bed when he was a kid.
Wenger understood something many people missed. Technique wasn't just about tricks. It was about solving problems before anyone else even saw them. That was Zidane. Before defenders moved, he already knew where the next pass would go. The famous roulette. Thousands have copied it. Very few have mastered it. For Zidane, it wasn't a trick. It was simply the easiest solution. When defenders rushed him, he turned. When two players pressed, he escaped. When everyone expected a pass, he dribbled. Everything looked ridiculously simple.
¿Quién es el jugador rival más difícil al que te has enfrentado?
Defensor.
El que quieras, como si me dices mediocampista, uno que hayas dicho, es que este tío es muy bueno.
Zidane siempre.
That sentence perfectly explains Zidane. Football is difficult, unless Zidane was playing. Then, it looked effortless. One player who admired him more than almost anyone was Ronaldinho. Before Ronaldinho became the magician of Barcelona, he was already studying Zidane. Think about that. An icon, calling another icon. His idol. That tells you everything. Then came David Beckham. By the time Beckham joined Real Madrid, he had already played against the best footballers on earth. But one teammate amazed him more than anyone.
Play with him. At the end, didn't happen. When I will leave from Barcelona, it was my dream play with Juventus, but didn't happen to play with him. I didn't speak much.
Imagine arriving at training every morning, thinking you've seen everything football has to offer. Then Zidane receives the ball. One touch, two touches, silence. Even world-class players stopped, just to watch. That was normal at Real Madrid. Brazilian legend Ronaldo experienced the same thing. He had played with Romario, Rivaldo, Ronaldinho, Roberto Carlos. Yet Zidane still stood apart.
Tener que decir, hacer goles, bueno, todo puede hacer, pero los goles bonitos, espectaculares como lo ha hecho en la final de la Copa de Europa, eso ha sido un gol fantástico.
Ronaldo once explained that Zidane never seemed rushed. The faster the game became, the calmer Zidane looked. It was almost unfair. Pressure didn't affect him. Pressure made him better. Then came the night that changed everything. France, Brazil, the World Cup final. The biggest match football can offer. Millions watching. Entire nations holding their breath. Most players disappear under that pressure. Zidane became immortal. 2 headers. One unforgettable performance. One nation celebrating. Many footballers don't even call that his greatest performance. Because 4 years later, he produced something even more beautiful. The cross arrives. Roberto Carlos lifts the ball. Time freezes. without letting it bounce. Zidane strikes. Left foot. Top corner. Still struggle to describe it. Because goals like that aren't supposed to happen. Not in training. Not in finals. Not under that pressure. But Zidane wasn't interested in ordinary. He made extraordinary feel normal. There is one thing every truly great footballer eventually earns. Respect from teammates. Respect from fans. Respect from coaches. But the hardest respect to earn comes from your rivals. Because rivals don't have to admire you. They usually don't. Unless you're Zinedine Zidane. Paolo Maldini spent an entire career stopping the world's greatest attackers. Yet whenever Zidane's name appeared, his tone changed.
People literally used to turn up the Bernabeu to watch him just control the ball.
Maldini once described Zidane as one of the purest footballers he'd ever faced. Coming from perhaps the greatest defender in history. That isn't just praise. That's recognition. Then there was Xavi, a midfield genius himself. Someone who understood football at its deepest level. When asked about the greatest midfielders ever, he never ignored Zidane. Because players who truly understand football recognize other players who see it differently. Zidane didn't just play football. He controlled its rhythm. He decided when chaos began and when it ended. Even Sir Alex Ferguson, a manager who spent decades trying to beat Europe's best, had enormous respect. He once admitted that players like Zidane simply belonged to another category. Not because of numbers, because of influence. Some footballers change matches. Others change entire eras. Zidane belonged in that second group. Football has one debate that never truly ends. Who is the greatest? Every generation has its own answer. Pelé dominated one era. Maradona inspired another. Messi rewrote what consistency looked like. Cristiano Ronaldo turned obsession into greatness. But somewhere in the middle of every conversation, someone always says, "What about Zidane?" Because Zidane's greatness cannot be measured by goals. It cannot be measured by assists, or even by trophies. It lives somewhere else. In memory. Ask people to remember Zidane, and they don't remember statistics. They remember moments. The volley against Bayer Leverkusen. The masterclass against Brazil in 2006. The roulette against England. The elegance. The calm. The feeling that every touch mattered. That is why so many footballers place him alongside the greatest names ever.
Es uno de los más grandes de la historia. Siempre lo admiré, siempre me gustó. Lo seguí mucho en el Madrid. Lo sufrí mucho también porque yo era del Barcelona.
Very few people leave football with universal respect. Zidane did. Ask teammates. They admire him. Ask opponents. They respect him. Ask legends. They call him one of the greatest to ever play. Because Zidane wasn't remembered for numbers. He was remembered for moments. The volley in Glasgow. The masterclass against Brazil. The elegance. The control. The feeling that football looked easier whenever he had the ball. Even today, decades later, the greatest players still speak about him with admiration. That is the mark of a true legend. Not just someone who won football, but someone who inspired football. This was Zinedine Zidane. A genius. A leader. An artist. A legend admired by legends. His career wasn't built on records alone. It was built on unforgettable moments that continue to inspire generations of players. And perhaps that's why, whenever footballers are asked about greatness, Zinedine Zidane's name is never far away. Tell me in the comments, which football legend should we cover next? And don't forget to subscribe, because every football legend has a story worth telling.